am your host, Jordan, and in today's video podcast episode, I am bringing you the worst books I read in 2025. So if you watched my last video, which was the best books I read in 2025, I said I was also going to share my worst books, but I yapped on about my favorite books for so long that I've had to create a whole separate video, and that's okay because that just means I can be a hater for longer. I am just kidding, by the way. I do want to provide a disclaimer that, of course, everyone has different taste in books, babes. Like, I probably actually have quite horrendous taste in books, but, you know, everyone has their own taste and preferences, and if any of the books that I list here today are your favorites, then I absolutely mean no offense whatsoever. And also, of course, this is just a bit of fun. Just, you know, this is not to be taken so seriously. I do not actually have any ill will towards any of the authors of these books either, and I really actually respect authors so much. So absolutely no ill will towards any of the authors. This is just for a bit of fun. I certainly could never write a full-length novel, so I'm just a hater. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get into my worst books of the year. And if you did watch my 2025 best book, I did say I had a bit of a stinker of a year when it came to books. I didn't finish a lot of the books that I started, so much so that I think I started so many books and I didn't even read a full 2 chapters of them. So of these books, these are the books that I finished and didn't like. So the fact that I finished these books, at least I could finish them, because a lot of books, I get to the 30% mark, and if I'm not wowed by the 30% mark, see you later. I'm out of here. Like, I'm sorry. I can't read a bad book. I can't put myself through it when there is so much choice out there. I don't want to waste my time. And as well, just a quick spoiler warning. I'm not going to be purposely delving into the spoilers for each of these books, but by retelling the plots and what I didn't necessarily like about these books, there may be a little bit of a spoiler as well, but I'll try to kind of say beforehand if I'm going to spoil a plot line or something. But anyway, I hope you enjoy this video. So let's get into the first worst book of the year, and that is Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. Now, this is part of the Rose Hill series, and Elsie Silver is quite a prolific author on TikTok, and her books have done the rounds plenty of times. If you don't know, Elsie Silver is an author that writes contemporary romance novels that are usually got some sort of cowboy element to it. So her other series, the Chestnut Spring series, is a really, really popular kind of cowboy romance series, and I actually quite like that series. I actually even rated one of the books in that series 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. However, when it comes to the Rose Hill series, it just isn't hitting the same way for me. And the thing is that I'm actually just finding it really boring. So it's not that I don't like this author or her writing, it's just that the plots of these books are boring. So the book Wild Eyes sits within Elsie Silver's familiar wheelhouse of small town setting, high sexual chemistry, emotionally guarded characters, and rural charm. So she's definitely following her usual recipe or formula for a romance novel. Usually in her books, the protagonists are drawn together by this insane attraction that they have towards one another, and then throughout the story they kind of go through the motions and they uncover this emotional depth and they navigate personal baggage as their relationship develops. And I usually really, really enjoy that, which is why I picked up this book, because I usually quite enjoy this author. However, the issue for me with this book, I don't think was the quality. I actually think it was the repetition. So this book follows chart-topping country singer Skylar Stone as she flees from her chaotic celebrity life to the small mountain town of Rose Hill, essentially seeking peace. But in this, she winds up at the house of Weston Belmont, who has lived in this town his whole life, and he is the rugged, charming single dad and horse trainer that is really well known in the town. Like, he's just lived in this town his whole life. He's single dad, he's got kids. I went into this book really positive because I thought, oh, that's a really interesting premise and seems a little different to Elsie Silver's usual books. You know, we've got a pop star and then this kind of rugged single dad. So I was really interested for that. But this book just freaking dragged on. So after an encounter, and I think maybe this is where we start off on the wrong foot. how these two meet is that basically Skylar's like, I'm done with my life as a pop star. I can't handle this anymore. And she's like, I'm going out to Rose Hill. And so she drives out to Rose Hill. And on the way there, she sees a bear on the side of the road while she's driving there. And she's like, oh my God, I need to get out and get a photo with this bear for my social media. So she gets out of the car and approaches a wild bear to take selfies with this wild bear, which is just so ridiculous. And it's like, oh, well, she's from LA. She doesn't know how dangerous bears are. Babe, I live in Australia. We don't even have bears, and I know how dangerous bears are. Like, why is this character set up to be an idiot from the get-go? Because the thing is, and I think this is also what pisses me off with this book, is that we are led to believe that Skylar doesn't like her current life. She's different. She's not like other pop stars. She works hard, and she never wanted all of this. Yet, how come the scene that we're essentially introducing these two characters together, she's behaving like an absolute nitwit? Like, I don't understand it. If anything, it just serves to me to make her look like a damsel so that the male main character has an excuse to rescue her. And in all honesty, I just found it cringe. And that's what ends up happening. Of course, she's like approaching this bear, trying to take selfies with it. And then Weston rolls in like, what are you doing? You're an idiot. And then the bear like tries to attack, like doesn't try to attack them, but of course they like have to kind of, you know, huddle together to stay away from the bear. And it's just this whole thing. Hijinks ensue. They end up living together. She gets to know the kids. Blah, 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 blah. It just... So, of course, Skylar forms an unexpected bond with Weston and his kids, and she falls in love with the small town life, and she heals from her trauma. So it's got all of those classic signs of an Elsie Silver romance novel, but it was just boring. Like I said, this premise should be really, really interesting, but yeah, I found it boring. I'm sorry. Like, we have a stoic male lead, and then we have the female lead who is seeking stability and someone different from her usual life. So I just think that the emotional journey felt a little predictable. And I will say it could just be the mood I was in when I read this, or maybe the fact that I had because basically I started to work through Elsie Silver's backlog. I read the entire Chestnut Spring series, and then I worked my way through the Rose Hill series. And I just found that as I was reading the Rose Hill books, I was like, this is boring. Sorry. Yeah, basically I found this book to be dull, repetitive, and I found the characters to be annoying. I felt like... I'm so sorry, guys. That is so rude. I feel like I need to stand in front of him. Lewis! Cover yourself up. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, obviously didn't really like that book. The next book I'm going to talk about is Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. Now, this is a young adult fantasy duology, and it's actually quite a few years old, I believe, but heaps of people rave about this book. And the thing that got me was that a lot of people who like some of my other favorite books will also recommend this. So it's like, oh, if you like this book, then you're going to love this book. And that's how it reeled me in. I actually took this book on holidays with me. So I was literally on holidays relaxing while reading this book, and I still couldn't get into it. And again, the issue is that this book was boring. Sorry. So this young adult fantasy introduces Kazi, a former street thief turned into an elite guard, and Jace, a young ruler fiercely protective of his people. Their story unfolds amid political tension, hidden identities, and slow burn enemies to lovers dynamic. So again, it's got all of the recipes, or it's got all of the ingredients for a book that I should love, because I do love a fantasy romance. I don't actually mind reading young adult. Like, that is not an issue to me at all. But this book was so boring. So I will say some good things about this book is that it does excel in world building and atmosphere. And the vibe that I get from this book is very vibrant. So I can really picture myself there. So basically, these two are working against each other because Kazi is some kind of guard for a royal in a opposing kingdom, and Jace Bellinger is like the son of this really notable, respected guy. It's kind of giving like mafia vibes. So he kind of rules the town, and the Bellinger family rules the town. However, the fact that I'm actually struggling so hard right now to even explain the intricacies of the politics and the world building tells you enough. I just felt like reading this book was a chore, and this is a young adult fantasy romance. Like, not to be like, oh, this book was too complicated or anything like that, because, you know, like, I don't mind reading complicated books. I don't even know how to explain. It was just too much. I'm like, why is this? in the way that there was so much world building, and the world building created a really vibrant world with lots of, it was almost too much. I was like, why am I getting into the details of this random, like, it was almost a bit too much. It was almost a bit too much. And maybe that's why I found it boring. And you know what? Again, to give the book credit, maybe I was not in the right mindset for this book. I was on a cruise. I was vibing. I was sipping margaritas, and maybe I was just not in the mood for this type of book because, I really didn't enjoy it. And I think as well, part of that issue is because the pacing of this book is quite uneven. Large sections of this book focus heavily on internal monologue and gradual trust building between Jace and Kazi, which I found to be quite slow. And I will say as well that the romantic arc between these two, this whole enemies to lovers, while a central part of the plot, it doesn't always feel proportionate to the stakes of the political plot, which leads to a sense of imbalance. Like, we've got these major stakes, and these two hate each other, and I'm not getting the vibes. Like, I'm not thinking, oh my gosh, these two must be together. I simply have to keep turning the pages to see these two get together. I just don't care. So for people who enjoy patient storytelling and immersive settings, then you may enjoy this book. I'm not completely discounting. However, it did feel like a strong premise, maybe stretched a bit thin for me. Like, I could see why people would enjoy it, but it just wasn't for me. The next book I'm going to discuss is The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. Again, one of my favorite books is by Christina Lauren, and that is The Unhoneymooners, and that's also got a paradisey island holiday summery vibe. So when I saw this book, I really thought I would enjoy it because, The Paradise Problem, it seems super vibey. Unfortunately not. Again, this book was an absolute chore to get through, and I'm sorry, but a contemporary romance novel should not be a chore to get through. It should be easy breezy, lemon squeezy. All right? Not difficult, lemon difficult. This, I don't understand why it feels like a chore to read about romance and people going on a holiday. Like, sorry. So the synopsis of this book is that it follows struggling artist Anna Green and heir Liam Weston, who had a marriage of convenience in college for housing purposes. Now, off the bat, like, I literally said in my 2025 best books, I love marriage of convenience. I love fake dating. I love those tropes. This is where it becomes a bit ridiculous. So these two got married while they were in college for housing purposes. It just doesn't make sense. Like, give me a better reason to have these two be fake married. Give me higher stakes for them to be fake married, because they got married in college for housing, and then now we're kind of fast forwarding and they've been married this whole time. So basically, after the whole housing fiasco, years have passed. I can't even remember how many years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. They're not in college anymore, and they've both moved on with their lives. Anna believes that the marriage ended, and West secretly kept this marriage going on for the sake of appearances to his family, because his family are some massive supermarket chain family that have billions of dollars. And so he was keeping up this charade with his family this whole time. And basically, I think his brother, who's getting married? Someone is getting married. I'm so sorry. I can't remember. I literally read this at the start of the year. Someone is getting married, maybe his brother, maybe his cousin. I'm so sorry. I can't remember. And in order to secure his $100 million inheritance, he needs to bring his wife to this wedding. So he literally goes to Anna and he's like, hi, remember me? You know how like we were like married in college and then like you probably thought we got a divorce. Well, we didn't. And I need you to come to Indonesia and be my fake wife for a wedding. Bit ridiculous. So of course that leads to drama and hijinks as they kind of navigate the situation. And I mean, the fact is they don't know each other whatsoever. They truly don't know each other because they've been apart for so long and they didn't really know each other that well in the first place. So of course what begins as a mutually beneficial arrangement. Oh, and the reason it's beneficial for Anna is because Anna is like a struggling, poor artist. She is living by the skin of her teeth. Is that the saying? You know what I mean? She's barely just scraping by. And so he offers to pay her to be his fake wife. Again, I can't even remember how much, if it's like $50,000 or something like that to be his fake wife. And so of course she agrees. So it's a mutually beneficial situation, but it does quickly become complicated by inheritance expectations, class divides, and unresolved emotional wounds. Because it's pretty clear when Anna enters into this wedding situation, like it's very clear that she is not of the same class of these billionaire people. So Christina Lauren is known for sharp banter and emotional payoff, and that is actually what I really enjoyed about The Unhoneymooners. It was such an easy read, but this novel really struggled to reach those expectations for me personally. I know a lot of people liked it. I just couldn't get around it. I just thought it was ridiculous. The central conflict just feels so manufactured, relying on miscommunication and withheld information rather than organic character flaws. When they did get together, I didn't feel as though it was earned, with some revelations arriving either too soon or resolving too late. Like, I just didn't believe it between these two. While the setting and the premise of the book promised escapism, it's, fake marriage, Indonesian wedding, need to show the family that they're fake married. I really struggled through this. I didn't really buy the chemistry between these two. And it just felt a little weak. Sorry about it. Okay, so the next book I'm going to discuss, I am so sorry. The next book I'm going to discuss is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, the third book in the Empyrean series, or the Fourth Wing series. Yeah, I hated this. I hated this book. I absolutely despise this book. So I loved Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing for me, 5 stars. 5 stars. And then the second one, Iron Flame, I was like, oh, this is not as good, but I think I still rated it maybe 4 stars because, there were some sections that I really enjoyed, some sections that I found it super easy to read through. And then it came to Onyx Storm, and I was ready to give Onyx Storm a chance because I just thought to myself, Iron Flame, maybe that was a bit of a building block in between book, and Onyx Storm is where we're really going to get back into it. I was really willing to give Onyx Storm a chance, and it thoroughly disappointed me. I hated this book. Oh my god, this book was actually so bad. This book was so bad that I do not plan on finishing the series. I like to, when I'm, 3 books into a series, I want to finish it, but no, not with this one. I'm so sorry. It's so bad. So obviously spoilers probably for Fourth Wing and Iron Flame because I can't really talk about the third book without mentioning plot points from those 2 books. But basically, this story follows Violet Sorrengail as she navigates escalating war, deeper lore, and interpersonal challenges, primarily focused on forming alliances between Nevers. And again, this is a fantasy book, so I'm taking liberties with the pronunciation of these places. Apologies. So she's focusing on forming alliances beyond Nevers, failing wards, and finding a cure for her love, Xaden Ryerson, who is becoming a Venin, which is like an evil creature, and he's becoming a Venin, so she needs to find a cure for him. So basically, Violet is hunting down a special type of dragon breed as well, because they think that this special breed of dragon is going to be the cure to helping Xaden, or helping the war, or helping the wards, whatever. Yeah. And throughout this, she uncovers the dark truths about the Venin while also dealing with her complicated, potentially villainous relationship with Xaden and manifesting new powers, all while facing threats within and outside of Basgiath War Camp. So, okay. I actually even struggled to get through the synopsis of that book because it was just so... Oh my gosh, so much happened in this book. There were so many plot points, but at the same time, nothing happened in this book. Oh my gosh, it was so infuriating. So as I said, this book follows Violet Sorrengail's journey as the war intensifies and long-held truths about her world and about the dragons come to light, and leadership is exposed and corruption is exposed, and Violet is also grappling with immense power because she's immensely powerful. She has these like lightning powers, and then she has these like dream walking powers that I can't even really remember / understand. And I will say that the tone in this book is noticeably darker than the previous 2 books, with loss, betrayal, and moral compromise taking center stage. Now, where I struggled with this book was the pacing and narrative density. As I said, so much happened in this book, but nothing happened in this book. I feel like I don't know, like Fourth Wing was such a good book. It was so strong. It was so gripping. I was addicted. I needed to know what happened next. Iron Flame comes around, and truly, I do feel as though we could have skipped half of what happened in Iron Flame and skipped majority of what happened in Onyx Storm and still reach the same ending. I just feel like, okay, first of all, again, spoilers, but what the heck was with the whole plot point of her running around island hopping Oh my God, why am I getting the lore and like of all of these random ass islands when I barely understand the lore of the country that these people are from, or the kingdom that I can't even explain to you what Nevers is and the culture of Nevers and how it works, because I'm so busy reading paragraphs and paragraphs about these random tiny islands that we're probably never going to revisit again in the series, and we're spending so long on these random islands. That's all I remember from this book, was just like going around to the random islands looking for the dragon breed. And again, like, this book was so drawn out. It was all over the place. It was confusing to read. Like, I kept forgetting the names of places. I kept forgetting the names of characters because there were so many characters and so many things had similar names. And I think the thing that annoyed me though is if a fantasy book can have a good ending, I can forgive the rest of it, because that's the thing with a fantasy book. It is all about the payoff, right? Like, I can handle, world building and setup and this and that if the payoff is worth it. If the payoff is worth it. So, when it comes to the ending of this book and we're getting a big battle scene, I love a battle scene. I love battle scenes in fantasy novels. So I was like, yes, like, battle scene, stakes are high. And then this book ends the exact same way pretty much as book 2. So book 2 ends with Xaden being turned into a Venin. And it's like, oh my God, he's a Venin. Ah. And then book 3, it's like, oh yeah, he's Venin, but it's fine. Like hopefully he doesn't lose control, but he's fine. He's still like normal. Then the end of this book, it's like, now he's a Venin, but worse. Now he's a Venin, but worse. Ooh. And it's like, that's how I thought the last book ended. Like, what's the fucking difference? Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm like getting heated talking about this book. Slappy. Moving on. Okay, the next book I'm going to discuss is Until the World Falls Down by Jordan Lind. So I read this book as part of a book club, and actually my 2 final books are book club books. So that's why I finished these books, because I'm telling you right now, if it weren't for the fact that these were for a book club, I would have DNF'd these books way earlier. Like, there is no freaking way I would have finished these books if they weren't for book club. I'm so sorry. Yeah, but you know what? I don't regret reading them, because book club is about making memories. Book club is about having fun, discussion, discourse. So I don't regret it, but these books really sucked. So this book is a Labyrinth / Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it is a romantasy basically built on desperation. So our main character, Nell, feels betrayed and emotionally broken, and she enters into a bargain with Enver, an immortal ruler whose realm exists outside of normal time and morality. Now, from the get-go, from chapter 1, reading this book, it pissed me off, because we have Nell, and in her life, it just feels like it almost was giving me the vibe of like a Wattpad book, because it was giving like my mum sold me to One Direction vibes. Now, if you know, you know, like, you know. Anyway, because at the start of this book, Nell is like, this is all in chapter 1. She's like, oh, I think I'm going to get proposed to. I'm so excited. Like, my boyfriend, who's a low-life deadbeat, who does nothing, and he spends all my money, and he's really mean to me, but he loves me, and he's going to propose, and I'm so excited. Yay. And then she like goes, and she's like, goes to the date, and then she goes there, and she's like, oh, it's a coffee shop. Like, random. Like, I thought he would propose to me in like a fancy restaurant. Oh, well. And then she like goes up, and she's like, oh, and he's like, oh yeah. And she's like, oh, why is my sister here? Her sister is there to meet up with her and her boyfriend. And the reason she thinks she's getting proposed to is because she found the diamond ring, whatever. Anyway, she gets to the coffee shop. Her boyfriend's there. Her sister's there. And she buys them coffee. She's like, oh, I guess I'll pay. I guess I'll pay for everyone's coffee. And then they sit down, and she's like, oh, this is so random that like we're at a coffee shop and my sister's here. But maybe he just wanted my sister here because, you know, he wants my sister here for when he proposes. No. Then we find out that basically this boyfriend has actually been cheating on her with her sister, and he has actually proposed to the sister, and the sister is wearing the diamond ring, and Nell he paid for the ring with Nell's bank account. He drives Nell's car, and then basically it genuinely feels ridiculous ridiculous. Like, it feels so stupid, because then he's like, yeah, and I'm marrying your sister because she's the one who I've really loved, and like, how could you ever think I would love you? No one would love you. Like, I love your sister. Like, and then Nell is of course super upset because her boyfriend has just proposed to her sister and they're telling her, and Nell is really upset. And then the sister turns around and goes, see, mum said you would react like this. And then we find out that the mum's known about this the whole time, and the mum's also a lead choosing. Oh my gosh, it's just a bit bloody far-fetched, isn't it? Like, I'm all for creating an environment where we have a character that needs to grow and learn and go on their journey, but this is just ridiculous. It genuinely feels like a child wrote this. Anyway, so basically she is so desperate that she goes to the club afterwards, and her desperation for love attracts Enver, who is this, like, I don't really know what he is, if he's some kind of fae entity creature. I don't really know what he is. But basically he's an immortal, and he takes her to his realm, and they have extremely graphic sex in like chapter 2 or 3, and then it goes on for chapters. It goes on. Oh my god, they're having like a graphic sex scene for like 3 chapters. Like, this is all happening within the first 5 chapters. And then she goes to leave afterwards. She's like, oh my gosh, like, that was the best. Like, oh, I actually loved that. Turns out, like, sex can be enjoyable, crazy. And then she goes to leave, and he's like, oh, you can't leave. Like, you're mine now. You're part of my labyrinth. You have to complete my labyrinth. And, you know, you need to complete this labyrinth. And, it's like this whole thing. So basically now, because Nell agreed while having sex with Enver to be his and be part of his world, she now has to complete this labyrinth, which is, she's basically in this world. And again, I don't know, I think it's a different realm, not on Earth. Earth kind of exists adjacent to this. I don't know. It jumps all over the place. And she is subjected to different trials to test her endurance and her emotions, and, you know, basically so she can reach self-actualization. I don't know. So the book is inspired by Beauty and the Beast, and it does lean into that. So you've got your brooding, immortal, cursed castle, emotionally worn down heroine, and Enver is definitely positioned as this morally grey, kind of emotionless. So that's the whole thing. Enver doesn't have emotion. Oh my gosh, it's a whole thing. So he doesn't have emotions, and basically she needs to go through these trials, and every time she completes it, wait, I'm spoiling the premise now. I'm not going to spoil the premise. She goes through these trials, she meets a bunch of random characters, and there's so many trials. There's like 8 trials or something like that. I don't even know. And every time she does a trial, she meets a new character, and she has an emotional journey, and she kind of learns something else. And she's like, oh, true love is about this. True love is about having respect for one another. And it just feels so cheesy and over the top. And oh my gosh, littered throughout this whole book is the longest sex scenes ever. I was listening to this on audiobook, and one of the sex scenes was 45 minutes long. Now, I'm not a prude. I like romance novels, but 45 minutes? Oh my god, it was crazy. Anyway, so the problem with this book is that the setup promises complexity and an exciting world, but there was just no world building behind it. I was so confused. I couldn't visualize where I was. Like, 1 minute she's at the castle, and then also with the labyrinth, there's never actually a maze. There's no maze. She just kind of magically appears in different realms. It was just really hard to visualize, and there was just too many sex scenes. It was just too over the top, and they just felt like a complete imbalance between atmosphere and substance. And there was just weird pacing, underdeveloped characters, underdeveloped emotional arcs, and it just felt really hollow, and it was a slog. Also, I think it was a really long book as well. Not really long, but I think it was like, it was something like 18 hours long. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, I don't know how long it was actually, but it was long. And I put it on 3 times speed, and it still dragged. Anyway, I will say though, on a positive note, the book club around that book was really fun. We had book club. One of the girls, she did all of these themed items around the book. She created her own little, we did like a little treasure hunt throughout her house. that was really, really cute. So I will say, although I despised reading this book, I'm so glad I read it because I had a fabulous time at book club, and the girl who organized book club went to so many efforts, and she did such a fabulous job with the elements of this book to kind of turn that into our little themed book club event. So I am grateful to this book for that. Moving along, and I have saved the best for last. I truly have saved the best for last, and that is Morning Glory Milking Farm by C.M. Nascosta. I don't even know where to start with this one. Okay, so this book is often dismissed outright due to premise. Again, I would never pick up again, I'm not trying to judge. I'm not trying to yuck anyone's yum. If you like this book, I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. That's fine. Love that for you. However, I would never pick this book up on my own. Someone chose this for book club. I think they kind of chose it as a joke. And then I was like, oh shit, now we all have to actually read it. I will say again though, because we do a themed book club night and we do kind of activities and foods and cocktails based on the book, this book, it gave us a lot of material to work with. Violet is a financially struggling human woman, and she takes a job at a facility that collects milk? No, it's not milk. It's like it collects. What is a YouTube safe word for that? I don't even. Basically, this facility collects Minotaur cum. Sorry, I have to say it. That's what this book is about. She works at Morning Glory Milking Farm, and Morning Glory Milking Farm is a facility where minotaurs, in this universe, there are many different creatures. There's humans, there's minotaurs, there's moths, there's vampires, there's all sorts of different creatures, and they kind of all coexist. And there are these facilities because in this universe, minotaur ejaculate is highly sought after because I think it can act as an aphrodisiac for humans. I think that's the premise, I believe. But yeah, so there's these farming facilities that minotaurs can go to, and they can be milked. And it's all the way that the book is set up is that these facilities are like super well operated. So, you know, it's like a proper facility. There's like PPE, there's training equipment, like it's a proper job. Like, and there's all, you know, it's quite clinical. But there are, you know, different types of minotaurs that go to these facilities, and they go because they can get so much money from it. But, you know, some of them like love it. And they're, you know, pervs, and then others are purely just there to get the money because it's just another way to get money, and there's no emotion or grossness behind what they're just there to get money. They're just there to get money. But yeah, anyway, Violet is one of the milking technicians, and she meets Rourke, who is one of her clients, who is a gentle minotaur who becomes her primary client and eventual love interest. So they meet through this milking facility. And yeah. So the novel deliberately reframes monster romance away from this kind of dominance and danger. Like, you know, monster romance, it's a thing. I know lots of people love it, but it really, it kind of gears away from the usual, dominance, danger, and it does instead focus on consent, routine, labor, quiet intimacy. The relationship between Violet and Rourke is as respectful as it could be in a universe like this. Look, I'm just trying to say nice things about this book, okay? I'm just trying to say nice things before I rip it to shreds. But yeah, I would say, considering the premise of the book, it was probably as well done as it could be. And if you read this book, ironically, then maybe you can enjoy it even, because it's silly. It's really silly. Like the fact that she literally falls in love with her client that she milks for his ejaculate. It's very, very silly. It's quite silly. Anyway, of course, they fall in love. Now, my issues with this book, it actually made me feel a bit sick, if I'm being honest. Like I said, if you enjoyed this, I'm really not trying to judge. It made me feel sick. I really didn't like it. I did not like the human minotaur sex. I found that to be really uncomfortable. Personally, I just don't vibe. I just didn't vibe with that. Call me a prude. I just think that the explicitness of this book is it's a little bit over the top. And again, like I said, like it actually wasn't the worst written thing in the world. And thankfully it was short. Again, I listened to this on audio and it was only about a 6-hour long audiobook, which is all it needed to be honest. So it was nice and short, but because the book was so short and because the premise is so wacky, it just feels uncomfortable. Really, that's why I didn't like it. It just made me uncomfortable. I'm sorry. It's giving bestiality vibes to me. Yeah. I couldn't get around it. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I didn't like it. However, like I said, book club was really fun. We had a lot of fun themed items. I brought sticky cinnamon scrolls. Yeah. Someone else brought like white chocolate drizzled strawberries. There was like a log cake as well with white chocolate at one end of it. Yeah, that was fun. And yeah, we did some fun like that was a fun book club. So I'm glad that I read it. I would never read it again. And if it weren't for book club, I never would read it. But yeah, not like I said, not trying to yuck anyone's yum. If you like that book, all the power to you. But yeah, that brings me to the end of this video podcast episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. And I just feel like I have to say one more time, of course, like those are just the books that I didn't vibe with. If you liked any of those books, all the power to you. Everyone has their own different tastes. And the thing is, out of all of the books I've listed, pretty much all of those books have so many fans that love those books. So all the power to you if you do like those books. But if you didn't like those books, let me know down below why you didn't like them. Did you read any of those books? Let me know down below in the comment section, what was your worst book of the year? What books should I avoid? And did you read any of these books? But yeah, anyway, I really, really hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please don't forget to subscribe, follow, give it a like, give it a comment. Thank you so, so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Bye. Mwah.